Okay. Welcome to Regal Rhino Tutorials. I'm your host, Ben Bush, and this is my class. Hey. So let's jump into it. All right. So today we're going through Surfaces Part 2, and I want to lead off with possibly one of the most useful surface creating commands in Rhinoceros. It's right up there with Sweep to Rail. It gives you lots of flexibility and lots of autonomy. I'm going to make a profile of a little bird. Get that near command off. Useful, but I hate it. And guess what? I'm fixing to turn it back on. Great. All right, points off. Turn the near back on. And what I am going to do is I'm going to give it some cross-section profiles. I'm using the space bar instead of hitting enter. So, I mean, technically there are three ways of hitting the enter key. It's either the enter key, space bar, or right click. And this back to shaded. So the reason why I put 3 or 2 dots in between the edges is so I could come here and add, oops, another dimension. Okay. So what I've done is I've set up parameters for this thing to flow along. And the cool thing about Curve Network is it either works or it doesn't, which makes it extremely frustrating. So if I want to do Curve Network, I select all the curves, and it gives me different options. It can either have a position, which is very close to the inputs that I gave it, or a loose interpretation, which has less geometry. You could see all these isocurves, all these contour lines, and then they decrease the simpler I make it. So that begs the question, well, what I could have done is sweep to rail, because we have technically 2 rails. Sorry, 2 rails and then cross-section profiles. And I can come back and I could finish that if they needed to. So in that respect, they're very similar. But what a sweep to rail doesn't allow you to control is, how do I say this, in a different direction. I would like to delete this and show you what I'm talking about. So sweep to rail says there's a rail going this way and a rail going that way, and your inputs count. But if I wanted to adjust the spine, I need to come here and adjust this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, to get a taller or shallower surface. So let me do Curve Network again. And 2 commands that I'm a very big fan of today and typically always are duplicate edge and extract isocurve. Let's say I wanted to make the peak or the ridge appear higher. If I want to, I can come back and make each one of these taller and then do it again. If I kind of want to fast track that, curve from objects, extract isocurve. And these little contour lines, these are isocurves. So there we go. Delete that guy. Control points. Wow, that's too many control points. All I want to do is turn the control points off. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go here and edit this one. And instead of dealing with all those guys from 37. Just give me 7, that'll work. Turn my control points on. Make that taller. Make that shorter. This one gets taller. Very well. Points off. And let's see what we get. So let me change some of the dimensions without having to change every single thing. If you're going to get good at something in Rhino, curve network is definitely a good place to start. So we'll cancel this. Let's do another example. Sure. I'm going to lay this down on its side. Very well. Shrink that, the back one, just a bit. And I don't want to deal with the bottom section. I'm just going to split with the plane. Split these curves. And I'm going to use Control to deselect. Sorry, it's Alt to deselect. You can't deselect, I'm terrible. Let's just restart. Object to split, our curves. What I'm going to cut with, the plane. There we go. And now we can get rid of the bottom sections. Zoom in and we'll add some outside parameters. Nice. I'm going to mirror that over. And I want to make sure these points meet. Move from that point to that one, and to check, yeah, it's slightly off. I'm going to turn my control points on and just scoot that in. Now I need to give it a spine. You see, I'm building this in a wireframe, and then I'm going to skin it later. It's one of those things that, let's go wide and come back small. That curve network allows you to do. All right, now if all my points are connected, curve network on everybody. Let me preview. What if I wanted to get some more control over this one? I like the way the sides and the top look, but I want to adjust like these 45-degree angles. So I'm going to extract the Isocurve. And see, it's wanting me to do it in a north and south orientation. If I want to go east and west, I can toggle my direction. There we go. So 45. 45. It might not be exact, but that's okay. And let's just play with some control points. Got a off course. That near command, I'm telling you. All right, let's run this command again. Surface, curve network. There we go. So, what's nice about this one is I can control specific areas without having to do control points for all days and do a lot of push and pull. Another benefit is, since it's still a surface instead of a poly surface, I have control over control points if I want to change it after the fact. So this is something you can't do with Seep Sweep 2 rail. You couldn't get the cohesiveness in between these profiles. Fun. Next on my list, I wanted to show you pipe last week. I just forgot about it. It's like Sweep 1 rail, but it gives you more options in the fact that you can adjust your width, but you can't change. You have to do a circle profile or cross-section curve instead of like a star or any other curve. All right, little S going on here. Pipe, right? There we go. Now it's in the solids menu. And we're going to do solids next time. So I have a curve, and it's going to let me decide how wide I would like to make this. How big is my end radius? We'll make it wider. And now I can go anywhere along this curve and adjust my diameter. Give me another view so I can tell what I'm doing. There we go. That'll work. So we got some type of Seuss looking thing. Essentially, it's Sweep 1 rail, and it lets you dictate your cross-section curves. Let's teach you patch. I need to make one so we can have good patch. I was talking to Connor earlier today, and y'all must have heard the conversation that went down. But if I want to make like a vase type object, I can make my profiles and do cross-section curves. But it isn't like starting with circles or ellipses. So we gotta take a different approach. Let's adjust this a bit. Very nice. We'll just mirror this across. All right, I believe all my points meet. What's caused me frustration for literally years is I have this surface I want to make, and I go to Curve Network and I select it, and I get this option. Select first curve and first direction, and then I can select things all day long, but I'm never going to get the output that I want. It's just going to quit. For circles and ellipses, or heck, any other closed curve, it'd be helpful to cut them or split them. That way the curve network knows where to start and where to finish. Like it has that U and that V, right? And so it's going to say, all right, I want to put isocurves down around this direction and then down and around this direction. And my split failed, which means I've done something I shouldn't have done. Turn my near on, make sure we're lined up. All right, let's try split again. All right. Now it has the adequate inputs it needs, and as long as all my points are touching, it's going to let me run the curve network. And we'll run loose because what we're fixing to do next might freak the computer out. Hopefully it doesn't. And everything looks better rendered anyways. I mean, I'm able to make pretty organic objects pretty fast. So let's say, right now you can't print this because this doesn't have a thickness to it. If I wanted to add a thickness, what options do I have? There you go. This is definitely one of my options. Offset to the inside, 3 inches. I don't know how far 3 inches. It might be too big or too little. This seemed to work. Let me get my shaded back on so I can understand. Quick looking ghosted. All right. I got the ugliest clutch in the world. So what we learned last time, blend surface from this outside one to the inside one. And this is where it wants to start, but it's going to let me adjust it in this box. Why did it start upside down? And why do I have that? Another nice aspect is I can come in here and grab these points and tell, like, no, you're not going in the right direction. Whew. Is not very happy with me today. So besides that starting and stopping area, I'm content with what I have. It looks like it's self-intersecting. No good. Let's say I just wanted to close this off. What options do I have? Correct. It's a solid. It's a surface, so I want to add a top to it, and it caps it. But what if I wanted like a matching top for it? Something that follows like these isocurves or the tangency that's already built into it. Yep, you got it. Surface, patch, this object. Got everybody selected. And now it's going to ask me how many lines horizontally and how many lines vertically do I want. Is it not reading anything that I put in here? That sure is disappointing. I'll be honest, I have no idea why it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I have a feeling it might be because of this pinch. Let's try a different technique. Now I'm going to take this curve and join it with the other curve on the other side because I split it to make it. That's what happened. It wants to read the tangencies off the surface that you're connecting to, and I connected to a curve which doesn't have any other built-in information. So hopefully I'm right. Surface edge and the other surface edge. Preview. There we go. And it's automatic trim that because I don't want the excess. Nice. You gotta be careful about patch though. We'll talk about making solids in another lesson, but if this line doesn't meet flushly with that line, it's not a solid, even though it might look like it and it might join. Let's try that again. Did not join, so it means if you can't join a surface to a surface, you can't make a solid. I could come back and adjust my tolerance, or I forget what other option it gives me. What a stiffness of 3. Let's see what happens. And let's check it out in rendered view. Rather interesting, yes. Drape. Drape's a fun tool. I haven't used it a lot. But y'all know when y'all did vacuum forming, you heat the plastic, you have some type of shape, and you pull down. Pretty much how drape works. So let's throw some litter outside on my working surface. You gotta get a torus in here. And we're just gonna make it a little bit more difficult on the program. All right, let's do the drape command. It's gonna ask you basically to melt plastic over what areas that I drag over. See what it did? So very much like vacuum forming. And as you can tell, I don't have any undercuts either. And if you want to check for undercuts, and we'll do this again later. Diagnostics, no. All right, draft angle analysis. And if I'm on the blue, means my draft angle is good. If I start getting red objects, means I'm bad. See the difference? This would pull, that one because of undercuts. Colors, yeah. Might cover this one on another day, but I feel it's important, so you got a double shot of it. You're not going to be at too much of a disadvantage. I made a surface, and I'm going to do some things. Like typically I like to work in a linear fashion, so if I get to a point where I need to back up, I'll make copies and copies and copies, and either work left or right or up or down. But I'll show you another way to fix your objects or get information back when you need it. See, that is a solid, a poly surface, and I want to be able to play with this surface a little bit more. Control points. That's a bunch of control points. I'm gonna rebuild it so it's easier to deal with. How's my 10 by 10? Still good? It is still good. Very nice. Okay, what I did there is I selected everything that my cursor touches, and then I'm going to hold control and deselect the things that I don't want. Pull this in. Let's push these out. Get rid of this draft angle we don't need anymore. All right, intriguing surface, of course. And just for unnecessary level of complexity, I'm going to twist this one. You'll see how much more complex it got after I did that. I'm going to cut it with the surface. Split object with plane. Pulls back. Cool. Interesting, yes. But let's say I wanted to start brand new with this curve, this edge that it has. I can't do extract Isocurve because it's not an Isocurve, it's an edge. So if I want to take this and start again, because I can have this pulled off when it reads the tendencies, but if I want to start with a brand new curve, I have to get a brand new curve. So, curve from objects, duplicate edge. I use it almost every time I work. So there we go. I got my curve back. Join, and I can use that as I feel fit. Didn't tell you about edge curves, and so now might be a really good time. It's my bread and butter. If something doesn't work, I know I can come in with edge curves and make it happen. Surface, edge curves. As long as you have under 4 curves to choose from, it'll fix it. It'll make a surface out of edges. The same thing goes for corner points. I choose the points, but I would much rather make sure I know the edges and make sure they touch before I construct an object. Crazy things. Heightfield, weird. I don't fully understand it yet, but it does have potential. What it does, it takes the blacks and whites and puts them at different ends of the spectrum. So when I give it an area, it's going to ask how many sample points, and I'm giving it plenty so we can see the detail. Height in inches, so my blacks are going to be at 0. My almost blacks are going to be at 1 inch. My almost pure whites are going to be at 9 inches, and my pure whites are going to be at 10. So let's see what happens. Top view doesn't make sense, but you can see in my perspective that we have a resemblance of a face. Let me turn this to rendered. So if for some reason one day you want to make a custom Jello mold of your friend's face, this might be a good place to start. And if you ever want to make a very interesting landscape, we have, you know, hills and valleys and terraces and good things all around. So cool. We'll start on solids next time.